regular meeting of the Goodyear City Council, 22 February 2010.
Hey, Manny.
Lights on.
Mine's on.
Hello. Okay, anyway, the meeting of the Goodyear City Council, regular meeting, 22 February. And we'd like to start with Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Councilmember Pizzillo.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand. Almighty Father, please provide us the wisdom up here on the dais to make good decisions as we move forward in the city of Goodyear. And also, please look over everyone on their way home tonight and provide a safe ride. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Councilmember Osborne will not be with us this evening. Could I have a motion to excuse her?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Vice Mayor Lord. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it 5-0. We have no expenditures to approve or ratify. We do have two communication items, however. Katie Wilkin and Nora Fasanelli will provide an update on the census.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh and members of the council. We just wanted to take a few minutes to give you an update on the progress of the 2010 census. As you said, Nora Fasanelli is also here with me, and she's been been on the marketing side of things, and she gave you some of the handouts, some of these shrinky-dink tags and the bags that we've been handing out at Goodyear events to help get the word out about the census. I hope all of you have seen the national media campaign. You may have seen some of the commercials during the Super Bowl or the Golden Globes Award. The national media campaign is really important. In the 2000 census, there was a 67% initial mail-in response rate. For every 1% we can increase that response rate, we can save $85 to $90 million. So if we could increase that 10%, we could save almost $900 million in federal funds for what it takes to follow up with non-responders to the census. Of course, the purpose of the census is to ensure equal representation, and it's anticipated that Arizona will gain a seat in the House of Representatives according to this census. But there's also a much greater local impact to the census. MAG estimates that Goodyear receives about $3,800 per household from the census figures. So all it takes is 10 minutes of your time, and then that's $38,000 over a 10-year period per household. The information from the census also helps us plan for schools, public facilities, and other city services. There's usually concerns with confidentiality, but the census is completely confidential, and census workers can face jail time if they breach that confidentiality agreement that they have. What we can do here in Goodyear is to fill out our census forms and turn them back as quickly as we can. We will be receiving census forms anytime now, and everyone should receive their form by the end of March. And I highly recommend that even though census day is April 1st, you can fill those out and turn those in right away. If you're like me, it'll fall under a pile of junk mail, so you want to just fill it out and get it in right away. We're also lucky from March 9th to April 9th, we're going to have a census representative available at City Hall to help anyone who needs assistance in filling out their form. And we're going to get more detailed information about the hours and the exact location of that worker, and we're going to get that in focus and on our website, so residents should look on our website for updates on how to fill out their census form. We may see census workers collecting information as early as mid-April, and we can identify census workers because they will have a badge. It might not have a photo on it, but they will have a census badge, and a lot of them also have a census bag. And it's important to remember, I've given all the council members a sample census questionnaire. There's also one available on our website. The only personal information asked is your name and your phone number. So if somebody claiming to be a census worker asks for your social security number or credit card information, that should definitely send up a red flag that they may not be a census worker. And there is a phone number that you can call if you need to verify that somebody is a census worker. And again, we're going to make that available on the city's website and get that in focus so that the residents have that available in case they have concerns. The national population figures are due to the president on December 31st, 2010, so it won't be till 2011 until we start getting the census information rolling into our city, so it will be almost another year. There are brochures outside for residents, and again, there's just a lot of information on our city website, so I encourage people to visit that. We're going to have a lot of information on our next In Focus article, so please take a closer look at In Focus. I also just wanted to mention that if you know anybody who needs a job, the census is hiring, and they need our help to get the word out about that, and there's going to be testing for the census workers available at City Hall. So again, encourage people to go to the census website if they're looking for part-time work right now. And I'd be happy to take any questions you might have on the census.
Any questions from the public? We have an expert in front of you here if you have any questions on the subject. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think Paul is Paul up, or, yeah, Paul is up next with the 2010 Economic Development Marketing Campaign.
Mayor and Council, what I wanted to do is just give you a heads up on what we're doing, because we will be asking you to become involved at different stages. So the key is that, okay, there. The current situation is that the low-cost spec buildings are helping today's success in corporate recruitment. There's a lot of activity out there, and there are many companies that are seeking new locations because of today's depressed lease rates. We have 4 key large spec buildings to market in our city. When those buildings are occupied, then our landscape will change. And we're being very optimistic in thinking and hoping that those will be taken by the end of 2010. So in the future, if there are no more large spec buildings in our city to market, then we will need to work with current landowners to promote the building of more spec buildings. However, and they've basically told us that there may not be financing available for any new buildings until the vast majority of the valley's inventory is used up. Well, we say we have 4 buildings. There are other cities in Phoenix who has far more buildings than that and much greater inventory to get used up. So we will continue to work then with current employers, large and small, and retain them and do further expansion efforts. We will need, and what we want to do is become more proactive in our marketing to keep our name out there with the brokers and attract new developers, put us in a better position when the economy does come back. So for that standpoint, we've developed a proactive marketing approach and a new marketing campaign. We're calling Leading Edge campaign. Now, leading edge are not unique words. I mean, they're used by, economic developers in a lot of places. What we're doing is making it a branding campaign. This logo, which was done in-house by our graphic artist, Michael Leone, we're going to work to trademark that as soon as possible and brand everything we do with a leading edge approach. So why leading edge? Well, literally, we have the advantage, and we found that it is for many companies being on the edge of the city that leads to California, where a lot of their markets are. Figuratively, many of our current businesses have leading edge business practices or equipment. As we go out and do our B3 interviews, we're finding a lot of them are leading edge. We consider ourselves, we took the leading edge to pass Senate Bill 1403, the solar bill, and then we retracted the first company after it was passed. Having Suntech in Goodyear will also help to add to our leading edge technologies and the city's image. We'll strive to be on the leading edge as a sustainable energy and solar city to attract that sustainable industry by working on ordinances and other things will be attractive for residential and commercial. Also, our ECDEV pages will be leading edge. We're theming them with a new logo. We're also doing virtual videos right now of all marketable industrial, office, and retail space being developed, and that will be on our website soon. We're having new GIS mapping that will also help brokers, developers, and visitors to the site. So elements of this campaign as we go forward is creating a lot of collateral materials this spring. We're going to have a direct mail piece, develop a 12-page brochure with inserts, and try to specialize them per industry, say bio or healthcare or aviation, solar. We're also looking to produce a fast-paced 3-minute video, and hopefully that will come in at a rate that we can afford. And we're also looking to corporate partners to help us with these costs. We're creating business programs as a part of the campaign. We're already into our small business seminars. As I said, we'll be looking at energy incentive programs for residential and commercial. We're looking to do a dine-in program in the summer when our restaurants are hurt the most, possibly by sending a card out on that's stuck to the top of In Focus and get it out there. And we'll be meeting with the hospitality industry in a business roundtable at the beginning of the summer to ask them how to best go about this. And then we want to have what we call a Mayor and Council Leading Edge Award Dinner in the fall, where we would honor local businesses that have leading edge practices, technology, or equipment. They would apply for the award, and then we would have everybody in just a Good Year Business Awards dinner. And we're also doing leading edge spring training broker days, as we did last year. And one of the big things that we're working on is a leading edge showcase for brokers and developers this spring. We're combining that with a sponsored golf tournament in order to try to bring more East Valley brokers and developers out here to see our city, to use this showcase to give familiarization tours, and to present our new collateral materials. That is, in a sense, sort of our big kickoff day. So I just wanted you to know about this before we really launched it on our website and in our collateral materials. Any questions?
Councilmember Cavalier.
Can I make a comment? Is that legal? The solar companies, we're at a point here where now we're getting this credit for the solar. A lot of companies are coming out here now, and they're talking to groups. Is there any way that the city could have some kind of, or develop some kind of a regulation for solar companies? I'm concerned about the kind of companies that may, and I'm not accusing any company that's been out here of doing anything, but making certain that the companies come out here are not fly-by-nights and are genuinely reputable companies that want to sell high-priced solar to our users, especially our residential users. I'm just wondering if there's some kind of, can we regulate that in any way?
You want to comment?
Yeah, I don't think we can. I think, however, we certainly can encourage all of our residents to contact the Arizona Corporate Commission before they hire anyone. But Rorik?
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to suggest that you're exactly right. Since it's not on the agenda tonight, maybe we can bring that back later with some options.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Is that all right?
Yes, that would be fun. Yeah, at least get to the point where we can discuss it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Opportunity now for citizens to address the council on any subject not on this evening's agenda. Would anyone like to comment on a non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the city clerk to read consent items A through C by title only, please.
Item A, approve draft minutes of a special meeting and a regular meeting held on January 25th, 2010, and a work session held on February 1st, 2010. Item B, approve a request from Philip Green Sr., representing OB Sports Golf Management, LLC, for a person transfer series 06 liquor license number 060700037, an interim permit for Palm Valley Golf Club located at 2211 North Litchfield Road, Goodyear, Arizona. Item C, reconsider approval of previously approved minutes from the January 11th, 2010 work session and approve the revised January 11th, 2010 work session minutes.
Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Cavalier and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Lord? Aye. Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the business part of our agenda, and we'll start with the ordinance to amend the zoning for Estrella Golf Village. Ms. was on our agenda 30 days ago or so, and we asked you to get back with David Prescott on the citizens, and can you give us an update on the results of that interaction?
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh and members of the council. I do want to just quickly go over what the proposal was for those members of the public that may not have been here for the public hearing. This is a request to amend the Golf Village PAD for parcels 5.1, 5.3, and 5.5. Currently, on all three parcels, they are allowed to build two-story single-family detached units on 50-foot wide lots. On parcel 5.1, they are proposing increasing the lot count by 41 lots to a total of 111 lots, but also increasing the lot width to 60 feet. On parcel 5.3, they're proposing increasing the lot count by 23 units to a total of 81 lots and keeping the lot width at 50 feet. On parcel 5.5, on the western portion, 5.5A, they are decreasing the lot count by 31 lots, but proposing building on 50-foot wide lots. On the east portion, they're proposing building an attached single-family residential product on 45-foot wide lots. And this would be very similar to a duplex unit on a 90-foot wide lot. So overall, this would increase the unit count by 33 units. However, the original Golf Village PAD did allow for the construction of 3,350 units. With the proposed amendments, they would only build 2,225 units, which is over 1,100 units less than planned. So as directed, the city and Newland Communities held a meeting with residents on February 8th. About 56 residents were in attendance, and notes of the meeting were provided to staff and were available online as well. There was a lot of discussion at the meeting about items that were outside of the scope of the PAD, and I just wanted to mention that real quick. There was also a question we had after the meeting on the trail system that is depicted in the PAD, which is Exhibit M. And there was a concern expressed by a resident about the alignment of these trails, and I just quickly wanted to state that this PAD amendment only addresses parcels 5.1, 5.3, and 5.5, and doesn't govern land outside of the limits of these parcels. And that exhibit of the trails exhibit was only included to be illustrative. I also want to point out that there are some upcoming town hall meetings in Estrella, and I highly recommend that residents that have concerns outside of this particular PAD try and get involved in those town hall meetings. And in April, there's going to be a specific meeting about the trail network because Newland wants to work with the residents to plan the trails in the area. And so residents should contact the HOA to get the specific dates and times and get involved in that planning. At the meeting, it was some of the same concerns were stated about design and the 2 stories along the golf course. We do believe we've created stipulations that address concerns on the quality and the design. However, there is still concern about the 2 stories. We did add one stipulation addressing the 2 stories, which is a similar stipulation we add to many of our development projects that no more than 3 homes consecutively could be 2 stories. Basically, adjacent residents were concerned with the impact of the 2 stories on a 1-story neighborhood across from the golf course. But Newland pointed out that although some of those adjacent neighborhoods are built as 1 story, they do have the legal right to go to 2 stories. So it would be consistent to allow parcel 5.5 and the other parcels to be built as 2 stories. The other stipulations, which are steps 7 through 12 in the ordinance, which are here, address the design. Stipulation 8, which is 2 on my list here, is speaking about view fencing and that the view fencing should be similar to those that are already out there, so there's consistency in the design and the treatment. Stipulation number 9 is that the roof line should be articulated to provide more articulation throughout the whole house. Stipulation number 4 speaks about that prop-out treatments and recesses should be along all 4 sides, which is basically requiring 4-sided architecture. And I'm sorry, the next stipulation is on view fencing. The stipulation before that is basically requiring a substantial patio in all the rear homes along the golf course, and that this patio should have some type of nice tile roof or parapet wall, and has to be at least 8 feet by 10 feet wide. And we believe that large patio element will provide a lot of articulation and quality to the product. And finally, the last stipulation we added is that for those lots with view fencing, if they have any rear accessory structures, those need to be using the same materials and colors of that of the main structure. So if they want to have a little shed, it's going to need to be a stuccoed shed with a tile roof if that's what the main house has. And so staff feels that these stipulations that I've added do address the concern with the quality and that question that came up from residents. Staff has found that the PUD amendment request is consistent with the original intent of the Gulf Village PUD, which did plan for a variety of residential densities and product type and is consistent with the general plan. And so staff recommends approval of Ordinance 10-1207. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Opportunity now for the applicant. Mr. Prescott.
David Prescott, representing Newland Communities, 2850 East Camelback Road, Phoenix. Mayor, council members. First of all, Kitty did a great job recapping exactly what that meeting is about. We did go back at your request and hold a meeting with the residents. Basically, what I tried to do in that meeting is go through the design review process with the residents, because there's an HOA design review committee, and then there's the design review process through the planning department, the city planning department. Those two design review processes are combined and coordinated together. So I went through and explained all the different submittals and all the different requirements and all the different guidelines that somebody would have to go through to get approval of a residential project along the golf course or anyplace else. And so a lot of the stipulations have been added by staff are things that we would expect in terms of design review for homes in this project. The one thing I will add is I also amended the PAD development standards table. One resident, it wasn't in this meeting, but it was a couple of meetings ago, made a comment about we had allowed different garage options. And one of the garage options allowed a detached or a rear-loaded garage that could be pushed to the back of the rear lot, and commented that was probably inappropriate next to the golf course. So we removed that garage design. So you cannot have any garage elements going in behind the rear setback for the residential component. And we took it out for all homes because you sometimes end up with a situation where people see something in a model they want to know why they can't build it on their lot that they're interested in. So I believe that Katie pretty much covered everything. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Opportunity now for comments from the public.
I have several.
How many do you have?
4.
4. Okay, we have 4 persons who would like to address the council. I would again ask you if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. That's important to us. Please try and do that.
The first one is Alex Petrolini. Next one is Patricia Kramer. Paul Kramer. Patricia?
Back again. My name is Patricia Kramer, and I live at 18116 West Narramore Road. And these duplexes do affect my home, my view, and the nature of why my husband and I moved out there. We've been through this before. I'm not going to go through it again. We're disappointed, unhappy, and as much as Mr. David has tried to convince us that these are the right thing to do and the things that we're going to be there, they're not. So we're begging, I'm begging you now at this point, please do not pass this. It's wrong. It's wrong. We do not object to one-story homes back there, but duplexes are wrong. They should not be there, and I think it's unfair to do that to the residents of the fairways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Kramer.
Excuse me, thank you for the time. I send everyone in the, each council person and the council an email, so I'm not going to go through the details of that email. I don't know if you need it for a record, or you may already have it for the record, but I can give it to you afterwards. But included in that email, even though I, with my wife, object to what's happening, okay, what I did in the email was try to look at, okay, if it's going to happen, what can we do to try to improve it, at least from the perspective of the existing homeowners. What I had done in there, and this is a paraphrase of the suggestions I had put into the email, okay? The third one, I'll start from the bottom. The third one is the one David had mentioned. As far as detached garage, I crossed it out. I left it there just for completeness, but since David has changed, he still allows detached garage, but it's not recessed. I don't have any objections to that. The second one on here was basically talking about the current design guidelines, and David spent a lot of time with the residents, went through the design guidelines, and I agree the design guidelines do a lot to ensure the quality of home that will be built there, whether it be single family, duplex, or whatever you want to call it. What I just keep looking for is as much linkage in the amendment to the current design guidelines so they're not changed going forward. Now, I don't believe, and I'm not trying to tell anybody that I believe that Newland intends to go in and change the guidelines for the worst. But things change, ownerships change as time goes on. So anything that you can put in there to lock in as many of the quality guidelines that are already in there, I just think that's better for everybody's perspective, because then you know exactly what's being built. The most important one is really the first point, okay? And the first point has to do with 2-story, 1-story, okay? There was a lot of discussions in the last meeting about the total pad, yes, has a decrease of over 1,000 units, 1,100 plus units. But 3 parcels that we're talking about, okay, actually have a net increase of 33. Unless Newland intends to go back and, I'm sorry, my 3 minutes?
No, you're 30
Oh, okay.
more seconds.
Okay, I'll go real quick. And unless you go in and really want to go back and buy back land, you're never going to hit those 1,000 units. So you're really only talking these 3 parcels. Second point that was made, there was duplexes in the pad before. Yes, they were, but where were they? They weren't facing the houses we're talking about. They were on the southeast version area, which is now where the Morrison community is, built out. You can't build it there. Point being is, they're looking for a trade-off. They're looking to add something here. What I'm asking for is some consideration for the current homeowners, that if you want to add duplexes, which they don't have the right to do in that parcel, at least take the front row of those and make them single-story, okay? And I believe if you count across, they have 10 units on the front. Based on the guidelines that Katie just mentioned, that says 7 of them could be 2-story. I'm asking that those 7 be all 1-story, so there'd be 1 story there, so at least some consideration to the people, and I'll stop it because I know I'm being beeped. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Roger Matlin.
Good evening, Roger Matlin, Goodyear, Arizona. I live up in Estrella Mountain, and I've spoken to a number of different residents up here in Estrella, and I've been asked to look at this since I have a real estate background and do some analysis of this project and make some recommendations. So I'm doing that. Smile, Georgia.
I'm being serious and listening.
Have the display out. All right. Well, this is where our Sonoran story lives. And the reason I'm here talking, I have no interest in these parcels. I live in Estrella. I think it's a beautiful community. The reason I'm here is because I think the residents in Gulf Village are getting hurt by this development. And obviously, there needs to be some definitive reason for the council. So I did some analysis for you and made some recommendations. At the end of the day, this all comes down to, I guess it would be taxes. So I did some analysis of the properties and the taxes, and a recommendation of what I think would be an appropriate compromise between the developer and the city and the residents in this community. As you can see, pardon me, let me move this down a bit. This is an analysis of the various lot sizes that are being proposed in this development. In one section of parcel 5.5, they've got 50 by 115 lots. In another section, they've got the 45 by 115 lots, which are supposed to be duplexes. And this is an analysis of those properties, valuations based on numbers that came from developers I met with today. As you know, I've been in real estate for 20 years, so I got the numbers directly from the developers of what the properties would be worth and the tax analysis and the valuation. Overall, if you go with 60-foot lots with the front parcels that are across from the residents over in Gulf Village currently, if you just went with 60-foot parcels with that and use the current coverage ratios on those lots, you would still end up with the same amount of tax revenue from those parcels, and yet what you would do is you'd be able to put in one-story homes for all those front row homes that are highlighted, as well as provide the decent and reasonable view for the residents that made these huge investments in their homes, and be a fair city to the residents up in Estrella Mountain. And I bring this up simply because I searched to find duplexes in the city of in the city of Phoenix and the entire Maricopa County.
No, you're way over. Okay?
Okay. I just do me the favor and do the residents the favor. Don't be Queen Creek. Don't be Florence. Because they have 45-foot wide lots and duplexes, and I'm sure you don't want to have that reputation. The developers don't want to develop on these lots.
There was a gentleman, Alex, who he'd like to speak.
Do you want this?
Yes.
Just
Give it to Rorik, if you would. Thank you. Appreciate the analysis too, Roger. Seriously. Okay. Is that it? Okay, then. We have, before I ask for motion, I know the Vice Mayor has an addition to a motion or an amended motion she'd like to make when we get to that. But this proposed stipulation on the memorandum from Steve Correcchia, do you want that in the original motion? It seems like there wouldn't be too much controversy on that one. You add view obstruction.
Mr. Mayor, that's item D.
Oh, it is. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. All right. I was thinking about views, and it seemed to make sense. All right. Could I have a motion then to approve Ordinance 10-1207, providing for an amendment to the planned area development, but first I'd like to have the clerk read the ordinance, please.
Adopt ordinance 10-1207, providing for an amendment to the planned area development zoning for Estrella Golf Village on 126.8 acres, generally located along West Star Drive, 1/2 mile south of San Miguel Drive, amending the PAD land uses, development standards, and design guidelines as set forth in the Golf Village Planned Area Development Amendment parcels 5.1, 5.3, 5.5, A and B, dated February 22nd, 2010, adopting supplementary zoning map number 10-011 to provide for the PAD zoning amendment, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion, please.
Move the adoption of the ordinance.
Second?
Motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Vice Mayor Lord. Let's start the discussion with Vice Mayor Lord.
Yes, I'd like to add a potential stipulation that the homes on lots 155 through 174 in parcel 5.5B shall be limited to 1 story.
Can you show that on the map, please?
That was similar to a motion I was going to make, so, okay.
You think the same way, see?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. It would be these lots from here to here. And these are the lots closest to the neighboring residential.
Okay. Would you repeat that, please?
Yes. The homes on lots 155 through 174 in parcel 5.5B shall be limited to 1 story.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Souza, you wanted to comment on that first?
Yeah, right. Now, the proposal you're making, Councilwoman, are those the 10 units that we were talking about earlier?
The one she just pointed out.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Real good.
Okay. Councilmember Pizzillo?
Yeah, question for Katie.
Thank you.
The other question was on the quality, and I know the term duplex has been tossed around, and I kind of like to hopefully that they kind of come in more like villas. And what I mean by that is, I know you were looking at, it has to come through a process in which the design guidelines, is my understanding, still has to come back before you, or will it come back before council so we get to see what those models look like? I mean,
Thank you.
How does that work? Because I want to make sure the quality, as the gentleman in the audience, is there as well.
Thank you. The residential design review is done internally by staff, but we do review that against our design guidelines, against the PAD, and so that is a staff review, and council will review the platting of the lots.
Okay, then.
But I'm thinking, he's asking, can council request that,
To come back here.
to come back here and to see the design?
Yeah, is that possible?
I know it's out of the ordinary, but this has been a pretty extensive discussion on this development, and
If you want that, Mr. Mayor, you probably should make it part of the stipulation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it should.
You want that?
Yes.
Okay. Frank, do you have anything you'd like?
Yes, I do. I have a concern about the amendment, and that is, and I guess this would be to David. What does that do with the quality of the development if we go to one-story homes on that one row? We don't want to lower the class of that. I don't want this to be now, the neighborhood who have come forward to talk to us, and I won't point them out, they know who they were, I mentioned that they want to keep the quality of life as it is in Goodyear. Now, bringing in smaller homes, one-story, smaller homes, will that devaluate that area? Because that will have an impact on their home more so than adding the homes in that, and whether they're two-story or one-story. But will the one-story home will that make that home small enough that it will devaluate that area? That's my concern.
Mayor, Councilmember Cavalier, the duplexes, villas, duets, whatever you want to call them, is about adding diversity and lifestyle choices here. And I don't think it has anything to do with the value of the homes in the fairways. And the one-story stipulation could potentially impact the value of what we sell for a home builder because it puts restrictions on the property. But I don't know that would devalue the units at all. And the fact they're one-story versus two-story. I don't
Will
know
they
for a
be
fact.
smaller, but will they be smaller floor plans? Will they be less square footage? Or will you make them larger on that smaller lot?
I understand your question now. The duplex building envelope is 35 by 90, which is 3,150 square feet. You need 2-car garages is about 450 square feet. So potentially you could do a 2,700 square foot single story unit in there. You probably would not, but it's possible. Under the lot coverage and everything for one story, you could go up to 2,700 square feet. Probably more practical, you could probably do more like a 2,100 square feet. And does that answer your question? Or
Yeah, it kind of does. Now it brings up another problem. Maybe I've misunderstood. When we're talking, and this word duplex keeps coming up, and you know how I feel about that word, but the duplex situation, this is 2 lots with the houses up against the lots, the lot lines, right? But each of those duplexes will be on their own lot. You're not putting a duplex on one lot.
Mayor, Councilmember Cavalier, they are each on their own lot. The only difference is on the 50s, you got 35-foot wide products with 5 and 10 setbacks, or 15-foot setbacks between units. And in the duplex, you've got a 35-foot wide product with 1 attached wall and 20 feet between units. They're only done to create 2 different products, to create some diversity in the house products, and they're essentially, other than that 1 attached wall, they're pretty much the same thing.
I'm just concerned with having, going to a one-story, that we will degrade or cheapen the development, and that will impact Golf Village and the people, the neighbors. This is what they're not wanting, and yet when they say we don't want a 2-story there, it might devaluate the area because you have to put a 1-story in there, and that's my concern. And I'm not sure I can vote for this amendment based on that.
Is it not so that when you pull comparables for communities, you pull comparable size of a home? That's part of pulling comps, but that's all right. You don't have to, we're not going to put you through this, but I would just like to refresh your memory. We did talk about it in some of this discussion before about you doing some 1-story. So I don't think this should be a surprise. In fact, you even suggested that at one time in our meetings, that the possibility of that little section in there could be non-2-story. Is that?
Mayor, Councilmember Lord, I know that the issue has been requested about 1-story units in there. I've been very consistent all the way through. This is the 8th meeting that Newland would not support a limitation on 1-story. We do not support and we did not agree to this new stipulation. The whole purpose of the stipulation is to give residents, which I showed you in writing when they bought their homes, were not guaranteed of any views across the golf course and off in the distance. They want views to hills and mountains that are off in the distance, and if this is done, it's going to set a precedent for other projects coming in as we do infill. We're going to have to be addressing this issue more and more, and I would hope you would not do that, but I have not agreed to 1-story at any point, but I know that it's come up numerous times. I agree with that.
Yes, we've all discussed that with you, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I've discussed it before. Did we hear any, can I hear opinion on some of the other council,
Well-
how they feel about this?
Let me ask you a question. Do Mountain Views come into play in your recommendation? For this?
No.
No, not at all.
It's just, I guess what it is it was sort of a compromise. This has been such a contested, right, Mr. Prescott? You've done a superb job. You really have. You've answered questions over and over and over again. And my suggestion tonight was just for some of those people living in the area, it was a compromise. So it certainly isn't something that's,
So it's not a question of views,
well, I would think not, because you're going to have a two-story behind the one story. There'll be some elevation, so you're going to see height. It's built on an incline. Help me, Mr. Prescott, if I don't want to be repeating
Mayor,
something that's not
Councilmember
correct.
Lord, some of the questions were asked at that neighborhood meeting were about grades. And I went back and asked our engineer, am I answering the question right? Basically, the property kind of contours, rolls, and he said what we'll do is we'll scrape off 3 to 5 feet off the highest points and fill it in the lowest points, but the contours will still contour. The residents asked the same question because the cart path kind of meanders, so the development. So you'll have, a combination of 1 and 2 story homes, and I personally do believe that the request for the 1-story homes is about views, distant views to hills and mountains that they think they have rights to, and we have hills and mountains all around Estrella, and this issue is going to come up over and over again. I've already come up with it 2 other times since then, so I'm not real excited about opening up this particular door. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Let me have Councilmember Souza, because I think you wanted to support the motion, but I think now you're seeing it a little differently.
Let's see in a different light. Mr. Prescott, in the meetings that were held, what was the general consensus of the population relative to the proposal that you're putting before the council this evening?
Mayor, Councilmember Sousa, I would say the residents that came, the ones that lived in fairways directly across the golf course, consistently wanted custom homes or no development there at all. That'd be their first choice. They talked about being promised custom homes or something across the way, which the property's never been zoned or platted for customs. They have been concerned about the value of their homes in relationship to the value generated by having the villas, duplexes across the golf course. And I've tried to been very consistent to explain in my experience it has no impact on their values. They just do not believe me, and they're not going to believe me. I mean, this is a disagreement between myself and the residents.
Were these people in the majority of attendance that were expressing these opinions?
Mayor, Councilmember Sousa, I mean, it's been consistently 4 or 5 residents, and I think there's other people in Gulf Village that do support them, but probably haven't been as vocal about it. But I would say the majority of Gulf Village residents haven't been interested in this discussion at all that I'm aware of. And when we held a neighborhood meeting with 56 residents, I sent out notices to 1/4 of the entire population of Estrella. And we set up notices in the clubhouse so everybody would know. And some of the people who were there were more interested in the design process and not so much the issue about what's going on across hole number 2.
Yes.
Well,
with due respect to Councilwoman, I would recommend that since this has become a big issue, that when you have your closing papers and people sign off on properties, that section of what they agreed to be put in bold type so that they understand that when they sign this, they know what they're signing.
Mayor,
If that's
Councilmember
what you
Sousa,
do
it's a
there-
great idea because it's exactly what happened, and I can show you the bold
yeah, we
type
saw that.
in the public report in the CCNRs. I have it with me.
You're doing it now?
I can show it to you right now.
Let me see it, please.
So you see what you're looking at. This is the public report. This is the public report. In boldface, it says, subdivider advises that the above zoning is current and at the time of the public report filing and is subject to change. And it goes to and identifies the zoning to the north
Yeah.
is high density.
Well, that's highlighted.
Well, I highlighted the boldface.
Well, doesn't look like boldface to me.
We highlighted the boldface.
Well, anyway, then I would recommend that you make it bolder than that.
Okay,
That's all right, Mr. Prisco, thank you.
that's
I guess here's the other one. This is also in boldface. This is regular type, this is boldface, this is regular type, that's boldface. Says subdivider advises that views and/or scenes that may be visible from particular portions of the community or any of its lots will change over time and may be wholly or partially obstructed as development activity continues and landscape matures. Subdivider makes no representation or warranty regarding the future protection of views that may be a factor in a buyer's decision to purchase lots in this community. That, I believe, is the whole point of this discussion about one versus two-story homes.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
okay. Councilmember Cavalier?
Yeah, as I said, I will not vote for this amendment, but that's, to take this one step further, the fact that and I will reiterate the fact that I'm afraid that we'll cheapen the subdivision, and that will have an impact on everyone's home in that area. Also,
When you say amendment, you mean
the amendment that was made.
proposed amendment
The
to the motion?
proposed, oh, you didn't make the amendment.
No,
It
we
was
did not.
Proposed amendment, okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's okay. The proposed amendment, and therefore, I also feel that no, I've lost my train of thought. You took me off. Oh, I feel the other thing, I want to be very careful about how we vote on this, because voting against this action tonight puts it back in a higher density than it was. And yet I'm hearing people come to us and say, vote against this. Well, I don't think you want us to vote against this. You're asking us to vote something new in, because we vote against this, you're going to have a higher density than you have now, and it will block more homes if that's your concern. So I'm concerned that people are asking us to vote against this particular ordinance. Anyway, I'm going to vote for the ordinance, but I'm going to, if it stays as it is, and I think that it should, because I believe it's a quality development. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, before I go to Joe, Vice Mayor?
The reason I brought this up tonight is to is for discussion. We did have a homeowner that came up that questioned that and said he would like to present that to us, which he did. So I felt he deserved the respect for us to spend time and discuss it. And I think this is where it should have happened, at the dais. So, Frank, I appreciate your opinions, and Councilman Souza, same. And so that people are aware that we're doing this in an open discussion, and that we do listen to what they say. And now we've heard the other council people, their opinion on this. So I thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I respect your attempt to try to resolve something here, but I think, as I said,
Okay.
I won't.
We got it. Thank you.
Okay, you got the
Councilmember
message.
Pizzillo.
Again, a couple quick ones for Dave. On the villas, as I like to call them, that hopefully they'll be at that quality. What's the total that we're talking about here? Total product.
I believe 194 out of 293 in 5.5.
Okay, so if you're looking at if you're looking at the first, just the street facing that, you're looking at 10 out of 195? That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, what percentage of your product are we looking at for that one street?
It's that one street facing the golf course, 10. I don't know what the math
But
is,
that's
5%
10,
or.
But I mean, you got a total of 195 units.
Yes,
Okay, and this would be 10 of them.
I agree.
Okay, so this would be less than 10% of the entire product. And not only that, what is it, the most you could have is, what was it, 6 2-stories in there? Because you have to have, what, a single, then three, I mean, what's the most you could put on there right now? as far
Well,
as
I have to
two-story?
agree with, probably with Paul Kramer said 7, so I assume that he's
Okay.
done the math and figured out how you could possibly get 7, so I'd say 7 of the 10 could possibly go 2-story.
Okay, and when we're talking about 2-story, we're talking about if you have a duplex or a villa, whatever you want to call, they all have to be either 2-story or 1-story. Is that where you couldn't have the left side 2-story, right side single, or could you?
Mayor,
you
Councilmember
wanna do-
Pizzillo, I assume all the ones I worked on, they're either both units are 2-story or both units are 1-story.
Okay. Well, when
Just to clarify, the stipulation reads that in the duplex-type units, one structure shall be counted together. So they will both be 2 or both be 1.
The only reason why I'm asking is trying to get a percentage. If you're looking at the one street that's facing the golf course, which is a total of 10, the most you could put with the duplex back there would be 7. So if they were all 1-story, you're losing a total of 7 duplexes out of a total of 195 product. So you could make some of those up in the other 180 some product that you're talking about. I'm just trying to think this out loud here, what we're kind of talking about, because I understand the president that you're talking about as far as, as a council, we don't want to maybe go down that path. But the other thing I'm kind of thinking about here too is the percentage. So we're looking at 7 out of 195. The other thing that you're looking at as far as the percentage goes is, I just lost my train of thought again. But I guess what I'm getting at is I would suspect most of your target market that's going to be on there are going to be people like myself, baby boomers, yes, and yourself, okay, that are looking for a place that's nice quality within a gated community.
Empty nesters.
So, yeah, but my point is even on a single, you're looking at a 2,700 square foot envelope, which is probably quite large for baby boomer that are empty nesters. So I suspect probably 2,100, 1,800, 1,900 is probably what some of those are going to be. So I'm guessing the request of the 1-stories of possibly giving up 7 in a total of 195. I don't think Vice Mayor is asking. I'm trying to get a perception of the overall here. I don't think it's too much. I guess what I'm kind of getting at. So
It only takes one.
where I'm kind of coming from.
It only takes one.
Well, the psychology of it, I understand. The psychology of it, because it becomes very difficult when you have other neighborhoods telling you what and how to build and where you cannot cut. And I have noticed that a number of people that have come before us don't even live anywhere near where these houses are being built. So you've got a community looking at it totally. So I think I hear your fear that if we vote for this, it's going to give them the right to go from one section to another and dictate how you should build above and beyond what our planning and zoning. And so I understand that concern because I'm somewhat concerned too. And you have come forth and tried, and you've been very receptive to different changes and listening to people, and we do appreciate that. I especially appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I think we're coming to support on the main motion. Councilmember Pizzillo, you wanted additional stipulation on the final design for parcel 5-3 must be approved by City Council.
Mayor, the more I think about that and knowing the quality of the staff we have, I think I defer to them. I would trust that staff of making sure it's of the quality that the council is asking for here.
Okay, great. Further comment? You were going to make one, weren't you?
Do I leave this stipulation, the proposed stipulation, because I haven't put it into effect?
Yeah, no, you proposed to make a motion, you did not make a
Okay.
motion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, further discussion on the main motion, in fact, the only motion right now. Okay, I think I need a roll call, don't I? Yes. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to a public hearing to consider an ordinance for a rezoning request for Estrella Commons planned area development, and I'll open the public hearing, and Katie Wilkin.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh and members of the council. Evergreen Development has submitted an application for a rezoning from PED to C2 at the corner of Fillmore Street and Estrella Parkway, which is just north of Van Buren Street. The subject property is 2.5 acres, but approximately 0.9 acres is already zoned C2. The other 1.6 acres is zoned PED as part of the Estrella Commons PED and is designated as the district, which in the PED allows for commercial, office, and multifamily residential uses. The property is also located within the City Center Gateway Overlay District. The property is surrounded by commercial to the south and west, vacant land to the north planned for high-density residential, and vacant land to the east. The northern portion is planned for medium-density residential, and the southern portion is planned for the district, which again allows for commercial, office, or high-density residential. I will go into this later, but we have received a request for rezone from Evergreen Development to also rezone the property adjacent to this from the residential to the commercial. So this would be adjacent to the district uses, which would allow for commercial. The designation of the district at the corner, and this is a copy of the land uses in the Estrella Commons PED. And this parcel 11 is the 1.6 acres we're discussing. And you can see that the designation of the district on this parcel creates it disjointed from the other areas here, 10 and 2 and 1, that are also designated as the district. And this area, which is Estrella Crossroads, is a more logical boundary for this piece of property. As people view it from Estrella Parkway, they would see it as part of that development. So it does make sense that it would follow the architecture and the signage of that already existing commercial area. So it is appropriate to zone the piece of property C2 and treat it as part of the Estrella Crossroads development, so there is consistent theming, landscaping, and signage along the portion of Estrella Parkway. And P&Z unanimously voted to recommend approval of the rezone request. Concurrent with this request, Evergreen Development has also submitted an application for use permit for the development of a Quick Trip automotive service station. An automotive service station located within the City Center Gateway Overlay District requires a use permit. Automotive service stations located within the Overlay District must also undergo expanded site plan review. The Overlay District requires enhanced architecture, site design to ensure that the development is high quality, well planned, and creates a distinct character in this area of the city. The service station is proposed to include a 5,100 square foot retail convenience store and 10 gas dispensing pumps located under a canopy. Quick Trip has submitted a conceptual site plan and conceptual elevations with this application. And this Quick Trip would be located, as I said before, at the intersection of Fillmore and Estrella Parkway. There is a planned light signal located at this intersection, and so there would be two entrances from Fillmore to the gas station, and this eastern entrance would also provide access to the uses to the south, such as the Walgreens and the Subway building, to get access to that light signal. There'd also be one limited access entrance to Estrella Parkway. The northern portion of the site, which is right here, is currently located adjacent to property that is designated as medium-density residential within the Estrella Commons PED. And a commercial use adjacent to a residential use must include a 10-foot landscape buffer and a row of 15-gallon trees planted every 20 feet. Quick Trip increased this buffer to 30 feet and will include 2 rows of 24-inch box trees planted every 15 feet and staggered. The required 6-foot masonry wall was also increased to 8 foot. And this additional buffer will ensure that the proposed service station is reasonably compatible with the adjacent residential. However, as I showed before, this is the Estrella Commons PAD land use. And stipulation 3 for the use permit basically states that if that property to the east of the proposed service station were to develop as commercial or the district, then that requirement for the buffering wouldn't be necessary because that buffering is there to buffer commercial and residential uses. And there has been, since this application, they have, Evergreen DevCo has submitted for another rezone request to rezone this portion to the district. So then the boundary from the district to residential would be Fillmore Street. Fillmore Street runs right here, which is a logical boundary between a high-density residential and a commercial type use, rather than a more arbitrary boundary, which is shown right here. So Evergreen has been working with staff to kind of correct this land use in here to make it the most viable. And the provided canopy does show enhanced architectural articulation. This is a copy of the canopy, and these elevations do show the illuminated red band, but we did add a stipulation that they would be allowed to use the red band, but not the illuminated red band that you might see on other quick trips throughout the area. And this is a copy of the architecture that was submitted. Staff has received objection to this proposal from Mr. Dustin Jones of Tiffany and Bosco, who is also a former resident and Planning Commission member. He stated that an automotive service station located on Estrella Parkway was not consistent with the overlay district and with city policy. He expressed concerns with the uniformity of the corridor, and he also stated that C2 was not appropriate for the site, and a copy of his comment letter was provided to council. The zoning ordinance is clear that a service station is permitted through a use permit. And this means that it's required as a use permit so that each site can be evaluated on a case-by-case basis to determine if it's appropriate for that type of use, which is what we're doing tonight, determining if this is appropriate for that use. Staff has reviewed the meeting minutes and staff reports during the original approval of the city center overlay district approvals and couldn't find clear direction on whether this type of use should be discouraged. And so we went from the direction the zoning ordinance gave us, which shows that we can evaluate this use through the use permit process. Staff has found that the proposed automotive service station meets the requirements of a use permit and recommends approval of the rezone request and use permit application, subject to the recommended stipulations. The Planning and Zoning Commission did vote to recommend approval by a 5-to-1 vote. There was one dissenting vote. He expressed concerns with service stations and those and automotive-oriented uses being on Estrella Parkway in the overlay district. This concludes staff's presentation, and I would be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Katie has spoken on behalf of the rezoning and the use permit. And I do have an open public hearing, however, on the rezoning. I'd like to proceed with the rezoning specifically, and then we'll get to the use permit. Would anyone from the applicant wish to speak on the rezoning?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm here on behalf of Evergreen and Quick Trip. I would be happy to introduce people from Evergreen if you would like, and from Quick Trip if you would like. Happy to talk about the merits of the C2 application, but we certainly appreciate staff's recommendation for approval and the unanimous commission recommendation for approval on the C2 application. It simply makes a great deal of sense that this acre and a half be integrated into the balance of the C2 center that Evergreen has already built. Again, I don't want to miss out on additional details if the council has questions or wants additional details on the C2 application, but if you're comfortable with it, so are we, and I won't elaborate unless you need me to.
Okay, thank you very much. Opportunity now for the public, comments from the public. Again, it's on the rezoning to the C2. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask the city clerk to read the ordinance by title only, please.
Adopt Ordinance 10-1208, providing for the rezoning of 1.6 acres from the Planned Area Development Zoning District to the General Commercial Zoning District, generally located at the southeast corner of Estrella Parkway and Fillmore Street, adopting supplementary zoning map number 09-015 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Could I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 10-1208 as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Cavalier and a second from Vice Mayor Lord. It's open for discussion. Again, on the rezoning.
Question for Katie.
Katie, please.
Yes.
Commercial, is there a commercial property in section 3 of the proposal that's adjacent to what you're recommending for acceptance? Is it occupied at the present time?
Section 3, do you mean the area designated Section 3 by this right here? That's designated as high-density residential, so it'd be some type of apartment, possibly a townhome type development.
Okay, thanks. I didn't know there was going to be a residential area in that close proximity to this gas station. That poses a problem for me.
It is, sorry to interrupt, but it is separated from the gas station by Fillmore Street. It's not directly adjacent, but it is across the street from Fillmore.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Cavalier,
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord,
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa,
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Aye.
passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the use permit for the automotive service station. And Katie, do you have anything else to add? Ed, would you like to add anything?
Mayor, Council, again, I look for direction from you and the council members, both in the written staff report and in Katie's presentation tonight and in front of the Planning Commission. Staff has gone into a great deal of detail with respect to the appropriateness of this particular site, which is at the intersection of an arterial and a collector street that will be signalized. But they've talked about the appropriateness of a service station at this particular site, designed the way it's designed, and has, in their staff report, elaborated on how we satisfy the use permit tests and the additional tests as well. Here again, I don't want to skip over information or items that may be of importance to the council before you make your decision, but I also don't want to belabor your hearing unnecessarily if there's a comfort level on the council. As Katie indicated, this site will be integrated with Evergreen's existing shopping center that's to the south. That's what the C2 does, and that's what the use permit will allow to occur as well. And as was indicated, the property to any property to the north that may be residential is separated by Fillmore, which again is a collector street, which will be signalized, and we will help participate in the cost of that signal. Mayor, Council, I turn to you as to whether you want more information or detail from me, but we believe that for a host of reasons, integrating this particular use in this location to provide the opportunity for northbound traffic on Estrella Parkway to have the opportunity to get fuel if they need to is a good use in the right location and is well designed in accordance with the use permit tests. We request your approval in accordance with the staff and commission's recommendation, but we'll be happy to go into more detail if your council would like me to do so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bull, I'd like to take you up on your suggestion that you introduce the people from Evergreen and Quick Trip.
I certainly will. Laura Ortiz and Kelly Hayes from Evergreen, Greg Alpert and Andy Skipper from Evergreen. And we couldn't all get in one place, but from Quick Trip we have Troy DeVos and Juan Romero. I will tell you as well that subject to the council's approval, we would intend to immediately go into site plan review and construction document review, hoping to be able to pull a building permit within 6 months. We anticipate it'd take about 5 months to construct, so the hope would be that we would have this facility open within less than a year if it's approved by your council.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Evergreen and Quick Trip. Opportunity for comments from the public. Again, this is on the use permit. Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the use permit?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember, Vice Mayor Lord, and second from Councilmember Cavalier. It's open for discussion. Councilmember Cavalier?
I just have one comment, and that is, I've talked to a lot of people south of the freeway. That is needed and necessary. When you're coming north from any of the developments, either in the central part of the city or Estrella, we need something that you can pull off to the right, get gas, get back on the right. It's just a safer situation, and I'm very happy to see that station come in. Also give Safeway a little competition. We need to have both, so I welcome this with open arms.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad that Mr. Bull brought that out in his presentation to the council.
Yeah.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
The only point, and again, is the piggyback for Frank, is that's the only gas station heading north.
That's right.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now have a public hearing to consider an ordinance for an amendment to Estrella Phase 1 Planned Area Development zoning for Parcel 7-3. And I'll open the public hearing, and Steve Gretchen.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. Council members. This PAD amendment area is located within the Estrella community. This is Star Point right here, North Lake. This is the parcel in question here, parcel 73. The main development area that you reviewed in the PAD narrative is this area right here, 20 acres, just north of, on the north side of Elliott Road, across from the existing subdivision here with Hacienda Drive. Zoning for this portion of Estrella Phase 1 was approved back in 1987, designated for single-family development. This amendment request tonight would modify the land use boundaries for parcel 73. With this picture here, we're looking at the existing condition. If the amendment was approved, this would be the condition with the yellow areas, the development areas, the green areas, open space. With that change, density would decrease, the number of units would decrease. Currently, 201 units are allowed to be built in parcel 73. 77 are currently developed. The applicant proposes 72 here. They would also modify the development standards for this section here, the proposed development area, to allow a lot size of 5,500 square feet, along with development standards to support a product on that lot. This is the proposed conceptual development plan in the PAD narrative. Access would be off Elliott Road, one primary access here right lining up with Hacienda Drive, and a secondary access here for emergency access. Streets in this community would be private and it would be a gated community. A citizen review meeting for this item was held on January 12th. Planning and Zoning Commission was in January 20th. At the citizen review meeting, there were 3 residents who did attend. They did express concern with the project, loss of views and open space. However, staff did not receive any written protest to this request at the meeting. Planning Commission voted 6-0 to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council. No written protest was received at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. There was a resident who did express concerns with the notice, and if adequate notice had taken place. Staff responded that everything was noticed legally in conformance with our requirements and state requirements. As outlined in the staff report, staff does find this request to be in conformance with our general plan. We do find it to be compatible with the surrounding area. Staff and the Planning Commission, we are recommending approval subject to the stipulations in ordinance number 10-1210. Mr. Mayor, there is one change, and that was provided in the memo before you this evening. It's a change to stipulation 5, noticing future residents of the commercial to the east here with Elliott Marketplace. Right here. And basically, the applicant wanted to add view obstruction to that stipulation number 5. With that, Mr. Mayor, my presentation is concluded. Staff is available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Comments from the applicant?
David Prescott, representing Newland Communities, 2850 East Camelback Road. Mayor, council members, Steve did a great job covering the details. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Opportunity now for the public to comment. This is the open public hearing. Do we have any cards?
No.
Would anyone in the public wish to comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Morgan. I live in Estrella, and I live over in the Enclaves. The reason that we bought a lot over there is because we like the mountains, and that's one thing that's unique to the community. The development looks really good. My only concern is preservation of mountains as much as possible. I know you have to do a little bit of road work and building the lots and that type of thing, but I just want to make sure that as much as possible the mountains are preserved.
And I think all of us agree with you on that,
Certainly
ma'am.
agree.
Do you have a card?
Yes.
Does it have your address?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Comments from the public, additional? Okay, seeing none, close the public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to read the ordinance by title only.
Adopt Ordinance 10-1210, providing for an amendment to the Estrella Phase 1 Planned Area Development for Parcel 73 to 1. Modify the residential and open space land use boundaries on the 80.5 acres of Parcel 73 located within the approved Estrella Phase 1 pad. 2. Decrease the overall maximum residential density for Parcel 73 from 2.5 dwelling units per acre to 1.85 dwelling units per acre. And 3. To amend the development standards on 20.5 acres of Parcel 73 located along the north side of Elliott Road, approximately 1/4 mile west of San Gabriel Drive, to allow 5,500 square foot detached residential lots at a density of 3.5 dwelling units per acre with corresponding development standards, adopting supplementary zoning map number 09-014 to provide for the pad zoning amendment, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Would the council member who will make the motion, would you, if you're satisfied with the memorandum from the city staff, 22 February, that adds view obstruction to the stipulation number 5, would you include that in your motion, please?
So moved.
Pardon me?
So moved.
With the stipulations change.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Susan, a second from Councilmember Cavalier. Open for discussion.
Just a quick question for Dave. The picture, I guess, that was up there before showing the actual, I think the one you had that showed the open space, the green. got a copy as well. Yes, the new one on there. Addressing the citizen who spoke up earlier as far as the hillsides and whatever. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, looking at the contour that you have here, you're going to have more hill views than what you would have had prior. Is that accurate?
Mayor, Councilmember Pizzolo, that's correct.
So as far as where you're going to be building in this subdivision that you're talking about, there'll be less disturbance and they'll still have the views of the development just north of here? Is that what we're talking about?
Mayor, Councilmember Pizzolo, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Good. Member Cavalier.
Yeah, just a comment on, I went up there and walked that, and it's, the way they've laid this out is tremendous, because it should meet the concern of the citizen. I forgot your name, I'm sorry. But this lays in the mountains, down in the low part, and doesn't disturb the slopes, and certainly doesn't disturb the ridges. So anyone in that development on the other side, even the custom homes, you will not see any of that development unless you stand up on your roof and look down. It'd be very difficult to see. It's laid out very nicely, and it's good use of that area because it's a low-lying area within the mountains. Excuse me. And it does not disturb any of the slopes or the ridges. Thank you, Mayor.
No, thank you. Okay, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, that completes the business part of our agenda. We now move to information, comments from the council on current events.
Well, Mayor, you and I and Councilman Osborne attended the Governor's Centennial Summit. It was very encouraging, even with the situation economically. I think that they're striving to have a really good centennial, so I'm looking forward to that, and Goodyear is certainly going to contribute to that. First time I've been able to finally get onto one of our public art lectures at the Coffee House of the Ground Control, and it was on the light rail, and it was very enlightening. I attended GPEC International Board. As you know, we're focusing on attracting more foreign companies to the metro area. Looks promising. I finally, well, Frank, I thought you might mention it too, and the mayor, we went to the opening of the Cantamia senior community in Australia. And in there, on their model homes, they did have single-family attached homes, which we're using as naming duplex in all of our information of this last controversy we had in changing and adding them to a community in Estrella. So I encourage people to go to the model homes and to walk around and see what these single-family attached homes, which you're calling duplexes, look like. They're quite nice, and I think it will give you more assurance. We also met with, Joanne and I met with the ASU government liaison and spoke with him about the universities. And I also attended, at my expense, the Coangelo event at the Wigwam, and was very encouraged at of his plan and his partner's plan to bring more business out to the Wigwam, which will reflect on our community, because I think that we'll get some of that overflow from their PR that they're going to be doing on the Wigwam. So it's nice to see that it's going to improve, and it's a great establishment for our side of the city.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think Vice Mayor covered most of what we did, except we had CDAC this week, and Katie made her presentation to our committee and did a very nice job. We won't get all the money, but we're going to get some of it, or I'll take a baseball bat with me to get it. But it's going to be a fight this year because there's less money and more projects. But I hope to get some, at least for those parks anyway.
Okay, I have very important item, and today Vice Mayor Lord, Councilmember Cavalier, and I met as a subcommittee to review the applications for the vacant city council position. And we had 19 applicants, so we're very thankful for that. It shows certainly great interest on the part of our citizenry, and we're thankful for that. Virtually all the people were qualified to do this, and we acknowledge that, the three of us. And we thank every one of you for applying. But we did make a decision, which we will forward to the council on 8 March. And with absolute unanimity, we have decided one person will be submitted to the council on 8 March, and that's Sherry Loretano. Sherry Loretano will be submitted to council for the next vacancy, filling the next vacancy, and council will make that decision, and if they support that recommendation, then she'll assume her seat on 8 March, correct?
Okay. Her background.
Pardon?
Tell us about her background.
Well, she's I wish I could find my paperwork here. She's an attorney. Here she is. Here she is. She's an attorney, has her own company, by the way, right now. She worked 15 years primarily in trials in criminal cases. She has been on planning and zoning for several years. She was on the City Center Committee, and she has the proper outlook for this role. She's very bright, and looking forward to having her.
She's on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, he
I
said
said
that.
Oh, you said that.
I
okay.
hope I did. She's on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And she's from Australia.
Well, and she hits that middle mark of age group in our community with children. So she's sort of comparable to Rob in that sense. And she's done a great job in the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Seriously, the comments on this lady have been all positive and without exception. So I'm looking forward to working with her.
Can I ask a question? How many
We all are.
How many applicants were there from Australia? Do you know offhand?
Oh, I don't know.
A couple of them are out there today. I know I've seen them, but I'd rather not mention. I don't know how many.
I don't know, but
Didn't count.
they had their addresses, but if you didn't look it
There were
up,
several.
you wouldn't know where,
I just want to say that I'm glad to see that the people at Australia are getting active in our
Oh,
politics.
very.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd
There
say-
was at least 4 or
Yeah, they
5
are active.
that were on that list.
I think across the board, the city was active
Yeah,
in this.
it was across
I think so.
And really, I agree with the mayor. There could have been a number of people that could have been taking that position.
Oh, these
excellent qualifications.
were all very.
Some of them are here
excellent.
this evening,
Yes.
but we did. It was fine, I think, and very pleasing to all of us that there was unanimity without exception on the choice.
For you.
Okay, opportunity for the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I would just draw your attention to the 2 yellow papers that were distributed with your agendas this evening. The one on McMicken Dam, which referred to the storms that we had from January 20th to the 22nd, and the McMicken Dam, based upon the information from the Flood Control District of Maricopa County, only received runoff of 8% of the capacity for that particular situation. The other yellow paper relates to the skate park at Goodyear Community Park, and we reviewed the options that are available to the problems that we've experienced since we have taken away the supervision from that, and we, as the yellow paper notes, are exploring the possibility of finding funding for a gate that will preclude young people from taking in bicycles, which is the predominant problem that we're having. And that will cost approximately $25,000. And the final point I have this evening, Mr. Mayor, is with great pleasure that per the city code, I announce that Charles McDowell has been appointed the Director of Public Works. Charles, as you all know, has been in the interim position for about 10, 11 months right now. And he has received a Bachelor of Science degree, and he has 29 years of experience in water, public utility operation, and management experience. Prior to Goodyear, he was the Southeast Regional District Director of Operations for American Water Services in Atlanta, Georgia. He joined Goodyear in April 2004 as the Director of Water Management. Since June of 2009, he has served as the Interim Director of the merged departments, Water Resources and Public Works Departments. We merged those departments in December of 2008, and it's with great pleasure that I announce that I appointed him as the Director of Public Works. So, thank you. That's all I have this evening.
Congratulations, Charles. Where is Charles?
Charles.
Is he here? Is he here? Oh.
Pick a bad day to get in.
Okay, inquiries of staff. I have one, it's on the McMicken. I know the flood control district's been very active on that, I know since I've been mayor, and we've been seeking core funding. Have we ever gone on record as a city emphasizing the importance of repairing or replacing that dam, seeking core money to help do that?
I will have to double check, Mr. Mayor, but we will bring it back to you and let you know, and if not, we will propose something for you.
Yeah, I think that's a very safe option, I think. So I'd suggest that. Okay, now we have a meeting, special meeting, likely going to exec session. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, this meeting